Hi everyone, Erika Borunda here with Exude Luxury Group. We have a very special guest in San Diego today, Miss Alexandra Jarvis from the Oppenheimer Group. You may also recognize her from the new Netflix series, Selling OC. Welcome to San Diego, Alexandra.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and just see San Diego from this incredible view. I mean, this is literally the best spot in San Diego, I think.
There's no better way to see San Diego other than a 360-degree view.
Yeah, I agree.
We're currently experiencing a huge market shift here in Southern California, and properties are staying on market much longer, deals are falling out of escrow, and it's more important now than ever to really work together with other agents to keep that deal in escrow and alleviate anything from it falling out of escrow. Mm-hmm. Are you guys kind of going through the same thing in Orange County with, with the market shift going on?
Yeah, we definitely have felt the market shift in a lot of ways, and I think a lot of it has to do with the stock market. A lot of people have just experienced a lot of downturn in their finances, which obviously causes people to kind of step back and reassess whether they're going to acquire property or sell their property at this time. And it's definitely hard, as you know, and it's you just have to keep working at it. But like you said, it's more important, than ever to really work together as real estate agents.
Right, and I see a lot of agents always working against one another because egos are in play, as opposed to really using the psychology behind your client and really putting yourself in their position, what's important to them, and really just analyzing the client in order to complete a successful transaction. Funny enough, Alexandra and I met earlier this year when we closed a huge deal in Orange County for over $8.5 million, and it was a property that was extremely difficult to sell. We were probably the third or fourth broker on that listing. It was a very specific property, and it was important that we marketed it correctly to the right clientele. And you know what they say, you want to be the firstborn, the second wife, and the third listing agent, and that's exactly what happened. And we were able to sell it.
Yeah, we were, and it was, no easy transaction. I mean, most aren't, but specifically in our case, I think, we had very strong personalities on both sides. And, when you're representing clients with, certain expectations and, perhaps egos involved, there's a lot to do to make sure that, you meet in the middle and that everybody comes out winning. And so that's what Erika and we decided. We had a good meeting of the minds, so to speak, to make sure that we were representing our clients, but also helping them get this sale to the end and actually, make it a very positive transaction.
Right. There's one thing I really want to touch on because I feel like there's a big misconception with luxury agents and a lot of licensees that got their license during COVID, and they have this tendency to believe that getting into luxury real estate is extremely easy, and I see that many want to be part of the outcome but not part of the process. And so can you elaborate a little bit how you got this $8.5 million client of yours coming to our listing? How did you get that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this client actually, a colleague of mine, Alexandra Jarvis from the Oppenheimer Group, she and I sold his $20 million house in Newport Beach. And we worked really well with him and understood him and what he wanted and his family. So we helped them, find their next home, which, happened to be the Malaspina property. But, I met him actually with Alexandra Jarvis door knocking.
Wow.
So yeah, we knocked on his door and he actually wasn't there. His housekeeper was there, and we ended up finding his phone number online, called him, and over the course of maybe 2 or 3 months, very persistent, we finally got him to agree to list with us.
That's incredible. I love hearing stories like this because this is truly the sweat and tears that people don't see behind the scenes of what it really takes to get into luxury real estate. This beautiful, not only just a beautiful face, hardworking, really rolling up your sleeves and door knocking in neighborhoods that some people just don't feel like they could do it, whether it's your ego or whether you're scared about it. We have agents out there door knocking. And it is possible. I mean, you got a $20 million listing and it rolled over to being a buyer on my listing for $8.5 million, a little bit over $8.5 million.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people think that door knocking, cold calling, all of these, tactics are, just
beneath them.
Yeah, and you cannot have an ego when you door knock. You cannot have an ego when you cold call. You really have to be committed to the whole process and, be okay with rejection because it's just going to be a part of it. But if you want the results, if you want to close in luxury markets, you have to put yourself out there.
Right. And speaking of that, I mean, for me on this listing, I mean, I was co-listing it with my colleague Jordan Cohen, #1 RE/MAX agent in the country. And this just goes into how important it is to build relationships with agents from all around the country. And I probably get about 30% of my business from referral business from other agents from New York, Florida, Oregon, Jordan from Westlake Village. And it's important to build these relationships with agents because now we have 2 powerhouses marketing this property in Orange County, San Diego, and Jordan Cohen's network as well. So I feel like beyond the door knocking and the cold calling, it's just as important to build these incredible trusting relationships with other powerhouses around the country. Many agents think that once they get their luxury listing that the job is done, that they've got their listing, but in reality, and Alexandra, you can jump in on this as well, is I feel like the real work starts once you have that listing because your skill set is going to shine with your client as soon as that buyer walks into that property. What can you do to really profile the buyer, sell the dream, and get that deal across the finish line? And you can kind of elaborate on that if you feel like the real work starts getting the listing or actually selling the property. There's 2 different differentiations there.
Yeah, I think this is why real estate is not for the faint of heart. And even though it may be somewhat easy to get into real estate just by getting your license, it requires so much work and tenacity and follow through. And I mean, there's a lot of work involved in prospecting with the door knocking and the cold calling. Right. But like you said, I agree. Like once you get the listing, that's when it's really difficult to make sure you don't lose it. Because
right.
That's a lot of money you spend on marketing. And you're investing your time and your money to actually make that a successful sale. But it involves psychology. It involves so many different things about like knowing your clients, meeting
right.
their needs, helping them to be happy because you want them to be in their next the next stage
right.
of life. It's like you want them to be happy with that, and you also hope for referrals because that's a huge part of it too. And if you're professional and you follow through and do what you say you're going to do, then you could always end up getting another deal,
right.
another referral. So I think it's not easy. It's all
right.
difficult. It all has its, difficulties, but I think that, making sure that it's successful at the end is really what we're all working towards.
And I think that's what we did on this deal. I know when your clients walked in the door, I was unsure what the reasoning was. You had given me a little bit, but not enough where I still had to profile the client, use a little bit of psychology and understand what was important to them, what were they looking for. Are they empty nesters? Are they a single family? Do they have young kids? And really understanding what's important to that buyer so you can sell that property to them. And during negotiations, that's extremely important. And speaking of negotiations, you actually have like a negotiating background. Alexandra here is a civil attorney, right? Before real estate, you were doing
I was
law.
Practicing attorney. I was a litigator with a business, labor and employment law firm. So I definitely have some experience with negotiations and dealing, with all kinds of different personalities. So I think that helps a lot just because so much of real estate is managing expectations, whether you're representing the seller or the buyer.
Right.
And so you have to constantly make sure, to understand them, even if they don't even know what they want.
Right.
You've got to figure it out.
Sometimes you have to tell the client what they want and they don't even know that they want it.
Exactly.
We do that a lot in our industry. It's really helping the client understand what they actually want. 'Cause sometimes a client doesn't know what they want and they really rely on your expertise to really guide them through that process. Now more than ever with the shifting market, it's so important for sellers to truly hire the experienced professionals in luxury real estate and really weed out the professional that's really going to take it through the finish line. Would you not agree?
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, it's a crazy market out there with properties falling out, sellers hesitant to list their property because there's not enough buyers. But what they're not really understanding is if you hire the right people, like Alexandra and myself, that we can truly bring it across the finish line with all the experience and sales that we have under our belt and the network that we have.
Erika, I completely agree with you. I definitely think, with the market shifting, we're going to see a lot of, real estate agents, falling away from the industry just because it is hard and it is difficult to actually, go through the transaction, see it, come to fruition. And, I think a lot of people don't understand what it all entails.
Thank you so much, Alexandra, for coming to sunny San Diego and visiting us. I hope if you were a buyer, an agent, or a seller that you were able to take some valuable points from today's video. We're very excited to be here. And again, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me, Erika.